join. Won't you? As we count down my 31 favorite horror films. One review for each day in October. This is my personal opinion. So sit down. Strap yourself in. Because tonight, we're taking a look at A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror film of all time. I could literally talk about it all day, every day.
You already do.
This is my review. A Nightmare on Elm Street is directed and written by horror icon and master Wes Craven, and it's about teenagers who are being stalked in their nightmares by a man in a red and green dirty sweater with finger knives. Whatever happens to these kids in their dreams happens in real life. So if they die in their dream, they die in real life.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
It's brilliant that the villain attacks you when you are most vulnerable and in a state where you can't really defend yourself. Sure, you can avoid sleeping for a few days, but everyone needs to sleep. There is no avoiding it. You will sleep, you will dream, and you will die.
Doctor, what's she doing now? Is she asleep or awake?
Everyone can relate to that fear of going to sleep, of being afraid of what they're going to see in their nightmares. And it's that universal fear that makes A Nightmare on Elm Street so successful at scaring people.
Please, God.
This is God.
Also, a fun side note, this was Johnny Depp's first acting role ever. It's so fun to see him out of his element and being such a youngin'.
Hey, Nancy. No running in the hallway.
A Nightmare on Elm Street has played such a huge part in my life. I remember being about 11 years old and watching it for the first time with my father and my sisters. I had seen a few horror movies up to that point, but A Nightmare on Elm Street really got to me. I remember being so afraid of the concept that I did not want to go to sleep that night. And within that fear grew a fascination. I remembered seeing the sequels lined up at the video store, so I knew that there was more to the story that I was missing. I needed to know what happened, so I begged my parents to let me rent the sequels. But they wouldn't let me watch them, as the first movie made me way too scared. They didn't want to have to deal with a child that was too afraid to go to sleep. And honestly, I don't blame them. For days and days, it ate away at me. I just needed to know what happened. And so I turned to the internet. Back then, streaming movies was not an option, especially with a dial-up internet connection. So I had to go to pictures, screenshots from the film. But even those took forever to load. So I guess written word was the only thing I really could do. I needed something more complete than just a review. So I looked, and somehow I stumbled upon the scripts. I read the scripts for A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 through 5 in the matter of 3 days. My world was changed. The scripts were so in-depth and painted a picture so clearly. It made me think of movies in a completely different light. And all of a sudden, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make people scared. I wanted to make people laugh, to gasp, to cry. I wanted to make people happy through film. I had always written stories and was always coming up with ideas. But now I had an understanding and a creative outlet. I got my first camera and I just started making movies with friends. It didn't matter if we had a concrete idea. We just made movies and we talked about making movies. We planned hundreds of movies that would never get made. We made terrible movies, but we got better with each attempt. We pushed ourselves creatively. Some movies were made within 24 hours. Some were completely abandoned and then revisited months later. We made movies for every school project that we could get away with. It was in our blood. And even when we started growing up and growing apart, every once in a while we would get together and just film. Because of A Nightmare on Elm Street and the effect that it had on me, I was able to make some of the greatest friends that anyone could ever ask for. Because of this, I am in debt to A Nightmare on Elm Street. It taught me to dream big. And with that, my 31 reviews are over. It's been a crazy fun ride getting back into film and being creative again. So I just wanted to say thank you to anyone who's watched my videos or who has supported me along the way. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and happy Halloween, everyone.